Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, June 13th, 2019. Guys, this is a big show tonight, in my opinion. I've got your typical space weather report and as well as other typical news that we usually share with you folks on our program, on our bi-nightly show. But there's something that came out tonight, and not a lot of people caught it because I just don't hear that much about it. So let's get right into it. I'll keep the suspense for later. Solar wind speeds 467.7 kilometers per second with a density of 8.5. Let's go over to spaceweather.com and check out our sunspot situation. Same as this morning's report, 25 days in a row without sunspots. That gives us now 99 days of 2019, which puts us at 60% of the year. Now remember, 2018 finished with 61% of the time without spots. Let's take a look at our space weather page here at thegrandssolarminimum.com. Very quiet, but we have seen an increase in KP indices as of recently. And that's going to be due to the coronal hole that is throwing solar wind at us right now that was expected between yesterday and today. And as we see, KPs are just below G1 like we had talked about the other day. Solar wind speeds slightly elevated almost to 500 kilometers per second, but not quite there. But again, not expecting anything G1 related. Now let's go take a look at our star in motion here. Let's zoom in. We got a couple small minor coronal holes possibly to deal with. Nothing major there. We look at the eastern limb, guys, and there's just nothing to report. And this is a pretty quiet sun. That northern hemisphere coronal hole is expanding a little bit, but not much of concern with that, and that never really is. But yeah, nothing to speak of. Again, 25 straight days without sunspots. And we talked about this a couple broadcasts ago where I believe we could see somewhere around 33, 34, possibly 35 days before we see our next sunspot. And looking at our star information on the furthest eastern limb that we can look at here near the negative 100 region, and we see that there might be a slight activity going on with this spot. It's something we kind of watched a couple shows ago as well, but again, we've seen a lot bigger and brighter areas that come around the eastern bend that don't amount into very much as far as sunspots. So right now we are dealing with a very quiet sun, 0 sunspots for the last 25 days, and just so much to talk about with the weather and the seismic activity. Before we went on the air tonight, there was a 6.0 in Chile. Hours before that, there was a 5.0 that was just north of that region. So a lot of seismic activity, strong earthquakes in South America right now. We also have other things to report that will involve seismicity and volcanism. TSI report right now, guys, this is for May 29th. So this is only moved up. No, we still don't have. This is still the same numbers. So I will have to find a new source for TSI at this point. We have not been able to update it in several, going on 2 weeks almost. Today is the 13th. We're only supposed to have an 8-day delay. So at worst case scenario right now, we should be at least June 5th. So we're about 6-7 days behind on the TSI data. All right, let's go ahead and take a look what's going on around the world. At least 30 dead, 2.2 million affected. This is in China. And this has been because of the heavy rains and the flooding that we've had over southern China over the past couple of days. The rains just started in June 6th, affecting an estimated 2.2 million people in many cities and provinces here in China. Resulting floods left at least 30 people dead and 9 missing. 7 people died in one region and 13 in the Guangdong region as well. A total of 1747 houses have collapsed and 966 were severely damaged. 30,000 people had to relocate in one particular province. Rain-triggered floods also damaged more than 84,000 crops, according to the Regional Emergency Management Department. Tons of flood footage here to look at. Thankfully, nothing that says not for rebroadcast. Unfortunately, we have crews assisting now at landslides. This video is also a quick recap of what we're talking about here. And of course, Watchers.news giving great statistics almost to the T when it comes to how many houses were affected, population. They're talking about the crop loss that we've had here. Some 1.53 million crops were affected over the last, and 15,000 houses collapsed. And that is down 32% and 79% of that average over the last 5 years, respectively. So in some cases, some of it's up, some of it's down, but nonetheless, more flooding in this region. We talked about this on our live show. Also, the last live show we did, we were talking about Japan as well flooding, but the situation is getting worse. We'll leave the link here at our website. Massive hailstorms hits Slovenia, other parts of Europe, causing major damage. Again, thanks to Watchers.news. Hailstorm, the size of hail that was as big as grapefruits, hit parts of Slovenia on June 11, 2019, damaging hundreds of homes and cars. Parts of Germany, Italy, Poland, Romania, Croatia also experienced intense thunderstorms with very large hail and massive hail accumulations this week. So we had the 3-day code amber in UK, and now we have these massive hailstorms with intense thunderstorms. Might I add, we saw 4.3 inches of rain in 2 hours in some parts of this area. I believe this is northern Italy they're talking about here. No, the Slovenia. That's where they got the 5.5 inches in diameter hail and 4.3 inches of rain in just 2 hours. So Wednesday was very busy across Germany, Croatia, Poland, Romania, Italy. Again, and here is some of these awesome sprites. We did a solar update yesterday about these sprites, and this is in a different part of the country. This is over Slovenia, or I'm sorry, the world, not the country. Slovenia and North Croatia on June 11th. So just the other day, we did a report about how Chinese observers were witnessing some crazy skies with sprites and meteors at times appearing next to each other side by side during the night hours of these captures. So just some amazing images coming from all around the world when it comes to sprites. Hail. Guys, this is not snow, by the way. That is hail in North Italy, June 11th. A lot of our headline news tonight is coming from North Italy too, as far as some of the video footage that we have from that region. Floods especially. Thanks again to Watchers.news. We'll leave the link at our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. And speaking about the earthquakes today, the two stronger ones we had in Chile, we had Cinnabung, which erupted just a few days ago at 55,000 ash plume. And now we have a strong eruption at Agung with a 30,000 eruption. This eruption took place 1740 on June 12th. The eruptive pulse lasted about 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Ash got as high as 30,000 feet above sea level, drifting southwest, according to data. The aviation code is at a red. The alert remains at a 3 on a scale of 4. So the radius there, the exclusion zone is about 2.5 miles radius. And this was part of the lighting here. Here we go. This is the explosion here at Agung. So some lava flow. And then we have the 30,000 ash plume. 30,000 feet ash plume, I should say. So with the strong earthquakes today, the volcano eruption yesterday, and also the eruption of Cinnabung starting the beginning of this week. And this, in my opinion, all this was kicked off. This was actually Sunday when we had Cinnabung. But this all kicked off, in my opinion, right after that CME, that little filament release that we had, that we talked about on Sunday's live show. And it's been a kind of a wacky week. So I'm starting off the show tonight with record hail storms yesterday, massive hail, more rain, heavy rain, flooding, China, killing people, earthquakes earlier this week in Cleveland, Ohio, which is crazy, 4.0. It happens, but not very often. Major earthquakes today, 6.0, just recently before we went on the air in Chile. And now we're dealing with another volcanic eruption, 30,000 feet. And as I'm talking about this, I'm looking here to the left or to the right of my screen, and the right of yours as well, is the Twitter feed of the Starman. And unfortunately, I cannot get all that in for you. But I will say that this map is showing us a cold front. And I'll get more into that as well as we get into the show.
Zoom into the window like here, will it let you do it? You can just slide it over and all the
it might. That might be better. That's okay. So here we go. We got it there. But that is a current look at our map. We've got some rain moving through here in upstate New York, through central Pennsylvania. Erie, PA is getting a pretty big dose of heavy rain. The Salina is getting some moderate rain showers. Toledo. You guys are experiencing heavy rain as well into parts of Michigan and across the Great Lakes tonight. But look at that blue, guys. The daytime high for today here in upstate New York is 58 degrees. Very chilly out right now. In fact, I spoke with my brother today in Dayton, Ohio, and this morning we had the same temperature at the same time. We both were sitting at 56 degrees earlier this morning at around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So to have these kind of temperatures on June 13th, and, you know, like I said, my brother is one of those guys that could care less what's happening around the world, politics or weather or whatever, but even he had a little bit to say about the unfortunateness of the temperatures that we're experiencing right now in June. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up, you can't tell me that all of these volcanic eruptions that is ejecting particulate into the atmosphere is not having some kind of effect on what's happening right now across the planet. Brutal hailstorm. Here's another article covering the hailstorm in Germany. We briefly mentioned watchers also covered this on the 11th. Golf ball to tennis ball size hail damaged numerous cars, boats, and homes in the state of Bavaria, including the capital of Munich. I remember when I first started the research of the grand solar minimum, 3 things were promised: volcanoes, earthquakes, and hail. And all 3 of them have come true. I understand that we live in an age now where social media allows us to see these when they happen at real time. I get that. I totally understand that. Yeah. I understand that. Here is a picture comparing it to apples and bananas and tomatoes. I understand that we have the availability with social media to post real time. But guys, it's not just the fact that there's more cameras and people's. I mean, 2008, we were still pretty much a phone dependent society as far as social goes. Many of us have been on social media way before the Facebook. People started with MySpace. That's when we first started sharing videos across the internet. And it just kind of exploded here in the last 6 years. But all of this hail, all the volcanoes, all the earthquakes, all the cloud nucleation, all the moisture. And we continue to see Roy Spencer report lower temperatures than what the global warming crowd is trying to tell us is going to happen because of the high CO2. This is unfortunate, folks. Unfortunately, livestock and some of the animals were injured by the hail. You could see the welts on these animals from these hailstones hitting these animals. That's just very unfortunate. But this is real. I mean, think about this, guys. Think about you being stuck and getting hit like that. I'm not so sure how well we would fare in a hailstorm like that. Hopefully that horse is doing well. Again, we'll leave the link in the description, but lots of world news tonight, really showing its ugly head as far as when we talk about grand solar minimum and the effects it brings. Now, I know we've been on the air several times claiming that we think it's possible that solar cycle 25 could possibly be the appetizer for 2030 when solar cycle 26 begins and becomes the grand solar minimum. There's so much information and stuff that it's conflicting sometimes. But tonight we do have a piece for you that's going to really confirm it. And this isn't about making predictions anymore. This is coming from the horse's mouth. But here's a look at more situations that you would see during grand solar minimums, or we are starting to see on the increase. Here we are in northern Italy, tons of landslides and flooding. Mari put together some Twitter feeds for me to show us what's been happening in northern Italy over the past couple of days. This is today, June 13th. And it seems like every time I get on social media, I'm looking at video footage of flooding, landslides. This is probably the weaker side of the flooding that we've seen coming from this region. Here's a repeat of that. Sorry about that, folks. Here is a little bit bigger picture of these waters just rushing down the mountainsides here, the hillsides, causing tons of damage. I mean, this just seems like a daily picture for us from this region. Rapid waters. Here's more big hail video footage. Again, these guys are shoveling hail. This hail is probably at least up to their ankles, if not a little bit deeper. You have to treat that situation as if it's snow removal. Just, again, showing you the size of these hail balls. And I believe last year, this time, we were talking about how bad Europe was getting the hail. And it seems like they're getting the worst of it when it comes to hail. Now, the United States has probably seen an uptick this year in some of the hail damage, but it does feel like that we see more of the larger hailstones coming from Europe. And I don't wish anybody to get hailstones like that. And it's unfortunate that our neighbors over the seas are getting bombarded like this, but also we're starting to see these things happen in our own backyard too. Guys, how cold is it in Australia? Everybody was making a big deal how Queensland, blah, blah, blah. It's not that big of a deal. Let me give you an idea how cold it is down there. Australian crocodile suspected in the Timor-Leste attacks. I think the crocs might know what's coming. I'm no expert, but I believe the croc is an extremely intelligent animal, and I don't think they move around too far to look for food and nesting site unless for good reason. They are territorial to a good extent. They are on the move when cyclones are on the way. But to cross the Timor Sea, there has to be a bigger picture. I could be wrong. Anything is possible. Now, what's she saying? It's cold. These animals are leaving the water and approaching land because of how cold. They're getting out of the water to warm up. They're moving. They're migrating away because it's too cold for them right now. That to me, like at first when Mari read this to me the other day, I'm like, okay, and then it kind of like caught me again, and Mari reminded me tonight and read it to me, and it's like, wow, this is kind of a big deal. Al Gore was just in this region talking about global warming. Not only was it snowing that day, snow flurrying, but now we're talking about incidences where wildlife is now moving out of its habitat because it's too cold. I want to thank the Western New York Preppers for giving a shout out to us the other day. Mari is acquainted with the Western New York Preppers, as we are from Buffalo. So once again, thank you guys for giving us a quick shout out. Speaking of shout outs, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, climate news tonight. GSM climate news. Got a couple exciting articles, and the last one I want to share with you before we go to our weather is the big one for me. Maybe not for all of you, but I think a lot of you will agree why I'm so high on this article coming up. UK proposal, 75% wage cut to combat climate change. Are you kidding me? The Labour Party is discussing plans to bring in a 10-hour work week or 10-hour working week and slash pay by 75% to tackle climate change. The Radical report titled Ecological Limits of Work by the Autonomy Group states, unless current carbon emissions are cut, there would be an unprecedented decrease in the economic activity. I don't know if this goes along the lines with what we were talking about with the Democratic Party, the DNC, protecting Biden from having any debates about global warming or climate change, because a lot of the carbon effectiveness that we would have to do is basically get rid of the automobile, get rid of the combustible engine, stop using planes to travel in, limit cows from farting. And so with that being said, when you're talking about a plan for a 10-hour working week with 75% pay cut under labor, well, obviously when you work only a 10-hour work week, you're going to decrease your pay. But is this another extension to, well, if we cut out automobiles, then there's going to be this many people that lose their jobs anyway? I remember when the Dayton GM plant in Moraine, Ohio, that was responsible for the truck and bus. I remember when that shut down during the Obama administration in 2008, 2009. And I remember the destruction it caused the southwest region of Ohio, especially Dayton, Ohio. People lost their jobs at GM, great paying jobs. But it wasn't just the GM workers. It was the workers across the community who worked in other warehouses that did things for GM, such as synchronize parts, maybe paint or coat parts, or just overall ship them or receive them and ship them themselves by truck. Either way, there was some small role involved for hundreds of companies in the Dayton region for GM. And then you have to expand even wider and think about all the restaurants and the bars and grills, because GM was a 24-hour company. So you had people coming in your local establishment at 2:30 in the morning to grab a meal or a beer if they were still serving. Second shifters, lots of bars, lots of grills, lots of restaurants. When that Dayton GM truck and bus plant closed, it killed Dayton. I mean, homelessness probably skyrocketed. I know a lot of people who were suffering income-wise during that period of time until recent days, really. And there's still a big struggle there. They still haven't recovered. Their economy has not anywhere come close to recovering from truck and bus being closed. And I mean that. I see the difference working in the state of New York. The wages are higher. There is plenty of work. And in fact, the work I do, it seems like you can't find enough people to do it. So it's the opposite here in New York than what it is in Ohio. Ohio is struggling to find an economy again in certain parts of the state. So when you get rid of things that you think are causing climate change, such as automobiles, and talking about cutting down work weeks into 10, I mean, how are people going to live? How's anybody ever, like, okay, I can see a few young, irresponsible people thinking, yeah, man, 10-hour work week, woo! But what about the realistic people out there who are trying to raise families right now, or trying to do the best they can in a world that's changing right before our eyes, and we have to adapt? But then how easy is it going to be to adapt to anything when your government is killing your economy because he thinks he's saving the planet? Insanity. What's up with that? Thank you very much for posting this tonight. We'll leave the link here at our website. And just another article real quick talking about money and the Green New Deal. A little quick piece here talking about billionaires are to blame for some of these radical policies. And some of these billionaires want to do right things for the planet. They want to be heroes. They want to help the world sustain a long longevity of life and capitalism forever, I guess. So they think that they're saving the planet. They're saving future humanity. But this gentleman here makes a very accurate statement. And no amount of money will satisfy the Green movement. Feeding them encourages them to demand more, talking about the Green Party, demanding for more money for their plan, and to resent the money they have already received. That's a strong, strong statement. I have to agree with this gentleman. This has been the problem, I guess some folks can say, about the Democratic Party. They like to throw money at the problem and hope that it goes away. And by these billionaires dumping a bunch of money into these global warming groups and projects, it's only enabling these people. And it's a shame that anybody like Al Gore or other folks who make any money off of promoting a giant lie such as man-made global warming, it's just not in the cards. And yet there's so many people that are rich from this. And they know as soon as this gets a firm traction on the world, all that research money's gone. And they better start saving, and they better start putting some away for the future. Because reality is about to smack them in the face. And I tell you what I'm about to talk about here soon, in my opinion, is going to really do some damage. And here's another article. We talked about this recently too. White House climate review could damage careers, scientists warn. Concerns mount over reports that federal researchers could be compelled to participate in the controversial exercise. No, this isn't controversial. This is, oh my God, our paychecks are we're not going to get paid anymore. We're doomed. What are we going to do? That's what this is. This is a red flag for all the global warming people out there who are making money from federal grants of research. You are now on the clock. Time is ticking. What money you have, you better save it. You better put it away. And you better hope that somehow a lawsuit isn't started against all of you out there who promoted such a theory that CO2 is causing warming. You better hope that the American taxpayers don't file a lawsuit against every single organization that supports man-made climate change. Because all that money that we've spent in the last 30 years, I'm sorry, excuse the language, it's been pissed away for the last 30 years. So these folks need to give it up. Back out quietly. Maybe some of you won't go to jail. I think some of this, honestly, is jailable, if you ask me. Some of the lies, how far we've taken it. The only reason why I support the sunspot theory is because of all the information and the research that's available out there. And we've got it on our website, we've got it on our YouTube channel, and we refer people to other individuals who study this field. And they also show us peer-reviewed information that confirms what is happening right now. Dr. Valentina Zarkova, very excited. We're going to have a chat with her here and within the next couple of weeks. Her paper has finally been passed through everything and is officially peer-reviewed on the super grand solar minimum. And that is one thing that we are going to dive into with Valentina, especially. Now, I find this very, very, let's just say, the information on Zarkova's paper, I was aware that it was actually official just a couple of days ago, Mari.
What was that?
Was it yesterday that you told me about Zarkova's paper being officially finally finished?
I don't know.
It was on the 11th or the 12th.
Well, she has it published on her thing.
but
it's not released yet.
But it's done.
It's done. It's in the final stages of being edited. It's a matter of days. I haven't.
So a couple of days ago,
I'll know tomorrow, Jake. That's the answer.
A couple of days ago, we found out that Zarkova's paper had been accepted, and then I'm gonna go back to this because I really can't hold myself anymore. A couple of days ago, we found out Zarkova's paper was going to be accepted, and then on June 12th, on NASA's website. I'm going to move this here because it's not showing everything. Guys, this statement from NASA is putting it right here in front of us. They are confirming the grand solar minimum is indeed upon us. Let me read from this article here. The ability to forecast these kinds of events is increasingly important as NASA prepares to send the first woman and the next man to the moon under the Artemis program. Now listen, guys, the Artemis program. This is so nonchalant. This is insane. Research now underway may found a reliable new method to predict this solar activity. The sun's activity rises and falls in an 11-year cycle. The forecast for the next cycle, listen up, folks. This is from NASA. The forecast for the next solar cycle says it will be the weakest of the last 200 years. NASA is confirming that solar cycle 25 will be the weakest of the last 200 years. Now they talk about how much lower it could be. It could be 30 to 50% lower than the most recent one, it says. Interesting. The results, the next solar cycle will start in 2020 and reach its maximum in 2025. Now, let me tell you something, folks. NASA is telling us that our solar activity could be as low as 30 to 50% than solar cycle 24. That this forecasted next solar cycle is going to be the weakest of the past 200 years. So why am I making a big deal about this? What happened 200 years ago? The Dalton minimum. The Dalton minimum was a period of low solar activity named after let me move this back over. I apologize. Named after English meteorologist John Dalton, lasting from about 1790 to 1830. Now, this still puts the time span of 2030s being the very worst of what's going to come. But NASA is, in my mind, and I think it's clear to everybody, when you talk about something that happened 200 years ago, and we all know these grand solar minimums happen every 200 years or so, and we're talking 206 in that area. All right, our max is going to be in 2025 once we begin that descend. NASA's saying that this is going to be the lowest, weakest solar cycle that we've seen in the last 200 years, meaning what we're going through right now is the beginning of the grand solar minimum. And if the maximum is going to be 25 to 35%, 35 to 50% weaker than this current maximum that we had in 2014 and 16. Guys, we're not even going to be close to showing temperatures coming back to the normal summers that we all once knew, the normal springs, the normal falls. It'll flatline out a little bit. My prediction, 2025 could look a little bit like this year, not as much rain, but temperature-wise, possibility. 2020 is the beginning of the next solar cycle, is what's forecasted. 2019 and 2020 winter is forecasted to be way worse in the northern hemisphere than what it was last year. And going further into 2021 and 2022, in 2023 before we start seeing an uptick in solar activity again. But I'm showing you what happened 200 years ago. No. Was the Dalton minimum a big one? No. Nowhere near it. But we have heard people like John Casey say that this could be a Dalton minimum type situation. Others like Zarkova think it could be Maunder minimum or worse. We love both of these people. But the one thing that we all can confirm with NASA, Zarkova, and Casey, grand solar minimum is here. There's no other way to describe it. The cycles that are supposed to be upcoming are comparable to solar cycle 5 and 6, which are pretty weak. Looking at solar cycle 4 is almost identical to what we had in 24. So, honestly, folks, I'm not one that twists the truth. I don't think there's anything to twist here. All right. NASA just nonchalantly drops here an article that we are going to see the weakest solar cycle in the last 200 years. That says it all right there, folks. We know grand solar minimums happen every 200 years. The last one we had happen was Dalton. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a Dalton minimum. It said it's going to be the weakest of the last 200 years. One of the weakest. Okay? It could be weaker than Dalton. It still could be weaker than Maunder. I think a lot of us, and including this channel, all agree that solar cycle 25 is full of unknowns. Full of them. But on the same week that we discover that Zarkova's work is being accepted, and we know what her paper's talking about, this is flowers and rainbows here at NASA compared to what Zarkova has to talk about. But this confirms to me, guys, this is nonchalant. Not everybody goes to this website. Not everybody is going to think like this. It's like Mari and I were talking earlier. Critical thinking is very important when you do this research. Mainstream media is not just going to spell it out for you and give you all the answers. You're going to have to do some of your own thinking. So when NASA tells me that the upcoming solar cycle 25 is the weakest of the last 200 years, and solar cycle 24 was hailed as the weakest in the last 150 years. So that confirmed that we weren't quite yet in a grand solar minimum, but now they're saying this next cycle is going to be the weakest of the last 200 years. There's nothing to twist. That is fact. And this is the way the disclosure is going to come out now. Are they going to come out and tell us that we're going to cool and we're going to freeze and we're going to lose crop? No, they're not going to. NASA's probably still going to say there's man influence on CO2. But I'll tell you what, they're probably looking at the same thing we are too, and they're looking at that NOAA climate.gov dashboard. And they see that CO2 continues to rise, but they also start to notice this cooling trend in the temperatures. As CO2 begins to rise even more, the temperatures begin to fall even more. So NASA, to me, knows that people like you and me watching this program right now, we're smart enough to connect the dots. How else can you confirm something this big without creating panic or mass hysteria? And I know people are going to say, well, you're doing it. No, I'm trying to make people aware of what's coming. We still have a little time to get ready for this. Not a lot. But for this article to be dropped right now, to me, this was strategically done to ease it in to the mainstream. No bigger website than NASA. I know a lot of you out there says NASA never tells or can't tell a lie or never gives a straight answer or whatever.
Never a straight answer.
Never a straight answer is what NASA stands for. And, we've all heard that, their logo It looks like a tongue of a serpent, which means deception and all this other crap. Guys, all you global warming folks out there have been hanging your hats on NASA's data, talking about CO2 theory, and now NASA's seeing that CO2 theory is not holding up. Temperatures are falling. CO2 is still rising by a lot, historic records. There's more and more research coming out about cooling and what happens every so many cycles of a sun cycle. Tony Heller does an excellent job of showing the historical data and showing us that 1,000 years was warmer than now, and 2,000 years was warmer than now, and 4,000 years was warmer than now. And this is due to ice core information and sediments from ocean floors and tree trunks and all other scientific ways of measuring these things. Okay? But yet, it's convenient for the mainstream to trust the data when it supports their agenda. But now they want to say, well, that's just too sciencey for us to go back that far and rely on those ice cores. Well, I've seen you guys do it. And they'll talk about 3 million years ago when it was colder than whatever ice age. And it's like, oh, so you'll use 3 million years ago data, but you won't look at the past 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years where CO2 was lower, but the temperature was higher. Or when CO2 was actually at maximum levels and there was no industrial environment to affect the planet with CO2. So I hope everybody thinks long and hard about this tonight. We are making this article available at PDF as well. Mari has archived it. We are sharing it just in case if something happens to it. They may think this might be a bad idea and pull it. I hope it's here for good. It might be. If it stays up, this is confirmation that the government or the powers that be are finally willing to admit that solar activity does play a part in our Earth's climate. Why would they even be talking about a solar cycle that's the weakest in the last 200 years? With all the increased flooding and all the cool weather that we're going through and all the volcanoes and all the earthquakes, the hail, the crop loss, the continuing crop loss, and the actual possibility of some parts of the United States will not even plant. That number got bigger from last year 3 times. It's time to get serious, guys. It's time to get serious. Stop messing around. Let's stop messing with these global warming trolls. Stop letting them affect us. Let's continue to spread this message. Share these videos. Share these broadcasts. Get your friends and family involved. Get them to watch tonight's show. And then have them go back and watch the GSM 101, the presentation that Scott Chapman put together for us. It gives us, and really, his presentation is excellent, but it's also just the tip of the iceberg of everything that goes into this grand solar minimum. But it is a good starting point. This is NASA's way of releasing information on the next grand solar minimum. When you have NASA comparing this next solar cycle to a cycle that happened 200 years ago, which was the Dalton minimum, which all of you naysayers out there can go out there and Google and find that it was a grand minimum, a small one, but it was. But that's the last time we've seen these predictions. And I remember last year we had that one guy that said, well, we're going to have slightly higher activity in solar 25. Only one guy said that. One guy and a bunch of scientists got behind it. But when I see NASA, the head honcho of space weather, announce this kind of information, it doesn't. All they're missing right now is them just putting a title saying the grand solar minimum is here, and knowing how much money all these organizations are receiving for man-made global warming funding. That ain't going to happen anytime soon, guys. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, guys, we're back. I'm going to do the weather, and then we're going to let you guys get on with your evening here.
Don't forget to pull up the crop report. I promise ask people that, Jake. I didn't put it in the website. Forgot.
Okay. Let's do that now before we go any farther, actually. Guys, stand by for a minute. We'll be right back.
Sorry.
This website wants to take forever.
I'm having problems myself right now.
All right, so here is a look at our crop report. And what I like to look at is the days suitable in the fields. But also, there was some charts that Mari pulled up last time that show us how much crop has been planted and what's arriving in the ground as we speak. I'm hoping those similar charts exist in this crop report. This is dated for the 11th. This is the most updated crop report that we have right now. And I do apologize. I wish I was a little bit better prepared. But I want to see. Here we go. Is this what we're looking at? Nope, not yet.
This is my fault because I didn't pull it up. I'm sorry, Jake.
No worries. I'm not even worried about it, honestly. So here we go. Colorado crops. You guys are getting close to normal. Illinois. Wow, what a jump. Corn planted last week was 45%. You're up to 73%. That's good news. Indiana up to 67% now. Not bad, but still way under. And we are past that period of where corn was supposed to be planted. So these are kind of like the final number. I mean, some farmers will probably attempt to plant corn, but let's be honest. I mean, they might be, and for it's not going to make much difference. So really, Indiana, you can't celebrate much. 67% of your crop is in the ground this year. Last year at this time, 100% was in the ground. Illinois, 73% is in the ground. Last year this time, 100%. Kansas last year, 80 or 98. Now you have 89%. Ohio, you have 50% of your corn in. Last year, you had 96%. South Dakota, last year, you had 100%, 64% right now. Tennessee doing awesome, 99%. That's got to be the bullseye, folks, in my opinion. Tennessee. Texas, same thing. You guys are on top. You guys are on point. You're above where you're supposed to be. Wisconsin, a little bit below, 78% right now, 94% last year this time. Right now, there's 18 states that were at 99% last year. This year, they're at 83%. And the amount of corn that's emerged from the ground, Colorado, only 69% so far has emerged, 90% last year. Illinois, 51%, 94% was out of the ground by now. Indiana's the worst. 35% is emerged from the ground. Last year, this time, we were at 96%. They say knee-high by July. We'll see. Ohio, 31% of your corn is emerged, 88% last year this time. Not much of an increase either from last week. 18% of the corn was above the ground at that time. We've only went up 13% in a week. This is some serious trouble, guys. There's some states that are not going to have hardly any crops. Wisconsin, South Dakota, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. Iowa's going to be a little weaker this year. Kansas also coming in a lot lower, about 20% lower than last year. Michigan, we don't even want to talk about it. 33% is out of the ground right now. 75% last year this time. 16 almost doubled their percentage from last week. Minnesota. Missouri, both coming in under. So, very sad numbers right now for corn. You can't plant more. You can't plant corn after this. From what I understand, you really should be planting corn at this point from here on out. So those are kind of like the final numbers right now. So we have a little more time for soybean, but we're still dealing with not enough of the soybean in the field yet. 66% in Arkansas has been planted, 95% last year this time. Illinois, of course, we know what's going on in Arkansas. Illinois, 49% has been planted. That's up from last week, but we're still almost 50% lower, or beyond 50% lower than last year. 96% was in the ground last year at this time, only 49% this year. Iowa, you're behind, 70% in the ground out of 97 last year. 48% in Kansas compared to last year's 88%. So we're seeing a trend over the last couple of years where crops have been getting planted later. That also goes into play with grand solar minimums when we talk about longer, colder winters, shorter grow seasons. That's pretty much the motto of what we've been saying about climate and what's going to happen. And that's what's happening. Let's go to the maps that shows us what's suitable field day. Looks like we're in the gold. I don't know if that's true or not. If there's farmers in the chat right now, please reach out to Mari and let us know your conditions. I'm really interested in Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Illinois, and Indiana. For the most part, I want to know what the realistic conditions are in these fields. So leave a comment in the chat or leave a comment in the video afterwards, or email us, jake@thegrandsolarminimum.com, mari@thegrandsolarminimum.com. But overall, we're in the second week of June, and we're just now starting to see more than 3 days of field work being performed in the fields of across America. That's shocking. That's shocking. And to think that next spring is going to be worse than what we've experienced this spring and last winter. If we're talking about snow in New South Wales and Queensland, Australia, and alligators leaving the areas and the waters because it's too cold for them down there. Guys, there's something major on the horizon. And then to have NASA just throw this at us. You know, oh, by the way, this is going to be the weakest cycle in the last 200 years. Gee, thanks. I mean that. Thanks for clearing that up. Weekend through next week, it just seems like the same areas keep getting rain over and over and over and over again. Heavy rain returns threat, weary Arkansas, Mississippi River valleys. Goodness, Ohio Valley. Mainly the Midwest and the Ohio area. And then, of course, the Northeast, we get showers. But guys, more importantly is our temperatures. For this time of year, at 58 degrees for a high on June 13th, I don't care where you are. That's not very June-like. Here's our flood status through much of the Mississippi. A lot of it is at minor. There's still areas of major flooding. Parts of Illinois and Missouri right now is where the worst of it is. Major flooding around St. Louis, Davenport, Kansas City, moderate flood stages, minor flood stages still for South Dakota, North Dakota, but all the way down to the Gulf, we're seeing major flood statuses, and the Delta, the backwater floods still rage there as well. And just another 6 to 8 days of more moderate to heavy rain. And it, look, when we first started talking this spring about how much rain, we were talking about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain falling over the next several days. And like, wow, that's crazy. So we look at a map here, and we're looking at some dark green, some moderate green, a couple of yellow spots. And you're thinking, well, that's not that much rain, Jake. But when you've seen precipitation as heavy as we've seen it in this region from January till now, remember, some of these areas like Kansas City, Springfield, Missouri, can only absorb, Tulsa, Oklahoma, can only absorb a half inch of rain before they start flash flooding. So throughout the Ohio Valley, 2 to 3 inches. Kentucky, 2 to 3 inches. Indiana, Illinois, 2 to 3 inches. Pittsburgh, 2 to 3 inches. West Virginia, 2 to 3 inches. Kentucky, most of you, 1 to 2 inches. Parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. On top of the rain that you already have, burying more of your fields, flooding out more of your roads. And it doesn't take much now, guys. We don't have to see 3 inches in a half day. 3 inches over a 24-hour period is more than enough rain on any normal day, especially to a region that doesn't need any more rain whatsoever. Take a look at our current satellite images. We have moisture moving out. This is the forecast through early evening into the overnight, early morning tomorrow. Take a look at our GFS. It'll also resemble what we're talking about right now. This low pressure system will move out, bring more rain across the Great Lakes. And oh, by the way, there is an article that I didn't mention. It is on the website, but look, I wanted to bring it up because we're talking about historic flooding in Western New York and Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. And then here this weekend, we're expecting some heavy rain showers across the Great Lakes, bringing more rain to a region that's flooding its shorelines. And my goodness, by Sunday, watch out, Columbus, Ohio, Lima, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. We'll be in on some serious heavy rain action before this moves to the east. Pittsburgh, you're going to get a dose of this, but this weakens a bit and then redevelops on the backside starting the week in Monday. This rain's going to run all the way from Tulsa through Missouri, Illinois, central Indiana, and the northern parts of Ohio near the shore of Lake Erie. So we are talking about some pretty decent rain for northern parts of Ohio near Lake Erie over the next several days, a potential of 3 to 4 inches of rain. Before now, it starts to move a little bit to the east late Monday, quickly dissipates. Heavy rain in Oklahoma lingers. And then again, the atmosphere reloads for Tuesday. More rain across Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, southern Indiana, southwest Ohio, and into parts of the Northeast. Philly, heavy rain. New York City, heavy rain. And again, just more heavy rain into Texas and going into the south into the future. Midweek next week, the atmosphere once again reloads across the country, almost forming a straight line from Canada to Mexico. Lots of moisture again for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota. Moderate showers falling again in the south. And another outbreak of heavy rainfall for Illinois, Indiana, parts of western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and yes, Michigan and the Great Lakes are going to see more heavy rain come across that region. As well as the south will see some moderate rain showers. By next weekend, another system like what we're looking at right now is going to be invading the northeast, the southeast, and look at this right here. I want to point this out real quick. This constant reformation of moisture coming down from the northwest like this. This seems to be a pattern that continues to happen here every time we have a system going off the east coast. This jet stream right now, this pattern chain, this dip, you guys can clearly see it. It's right here. And it just continues to stay and form over the same areas. Moving again to next week, into the next weekend, that northeast system will move out. More rain across the south into the future cast on the 22nd. More heavy rain, again migrating to the south. This time it looks like Arkansas is going to be an unfortunate spot to get the majority of this rain by the following weekend. So 8 days away, expect major flooding in Arkansas on top of what we're experiencing. Yes, near the Alberta area, BC, Canada, that's snow on June 22nd and heavy amounts of it. Before the atmosphere reloads once again from north to south and bringing more heavy precipitation across Arkansas again for the 23rd and 24th of June and inundating the south once again. And of course, we can't leave out the Great Lakes the next day. I don't mean to sound so excited tonight or a little on edge, but these are 24-hour reloads. And I don't really trust anything 16 days that far out. And every time I say that, when we get closer to that previous date, we see more and more and more rain falling through the same areas. Bear with me here, guys. So with NASA confirming, and here we go, this is a total rainfall through June 29th. And I'm going to come out and say it right now. Northeast Ohio, Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana. We're going to see a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, and especially across Arkansas and the Oklahoma border, where we're already underwater down there. And this is not going to help the misery that we're going through on the Mississippi if there's another 14 inches expected to drop in the next 16 days. Guys, these are large amounts of rain. Notice, too, in the west, the precipitation is starting to dry up a little bit. Thank God. Because the heat wave that we're going to have on the west with the snow melt, there's no way we could even control Mother Nature if we had heavy rain on top of the snow melts in some of these Sierra mountains and other parts that will experience melt. Especially in places like Colorado, it worries me, too, that we're getting rain on top of warmer temperatures with snow melting and rain falling and flooding occurring. Right now, the central part of the United States, all the way to Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, the South, we all need to kind of just keep our eyes on the weather here. Pay attention to what's going on. I saw a report on the Weather Channel where a couple was trapped in their home. The day started off beautiful, sunny skies, no water on the ground. They got a bunch of rain. This was near Dallas. They got a bunch of rain, and all of a sudden they've got water from a creek that became swollen. Now they've got water coming up to their window sills, and it almost came into the house, but eventually the waters did die down quickly. It was a very sudden event, and it went away just as fast as it came. Guys, these things are what we need to be aware of happening at any time when we're talking about parts of eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, and possibly parts of northwest Ohio and northeast Ohio as well. So more of the same, more heavy rain, and parts that don't need the rain, that maybe places that are getting planted, but now fields are in danger of being flooded. And that's another thing we got to think about, folks. Even though these fields are planted right now, with the way the rain is, I don't even know if that's going to make a difference. You could have 90% planted in the ground in Arkansas, but if we're going to get this kind of rain, that's not going to mean anything. Not when your field's underwater. So lots to focus on, folks. We are going to be live again tomorrow night. We have a few more things to talk about as well. Of course, the up-to-date weather updates that we have across the country and the world. Mari, would you like to step over here and say hello to everyone before we sign off the air tonight?
Great show tonight. It's sort of overwhelming the amount of topics and information that we cram into an hour show. And I actually forgot to put the crop report that I've been promising people for 2 days, Jake, into the website. So I'll post the link back in there.
There's no need to apologize. I think that when you caught that NASA article, I think that pretty much grabbed our attentions. And unfortunately, we were kind of blinded with that. So,
well, the discussion was...
You're only human.
I'm looking at these articles and I'm posting them in the site for Jake. And I come across this one. We were looking for a couple other things to cover, and I'm reading it. And it's like, how can they just stick that in the second paragraph so nonchalantly? Oh, by the way, it's just going to be the deepest since 200 years ago.
Well, and here's the thing that kills me.
Which was a grand minimum, but we're not going to say that.
They don't come out and say that all the weather that we're experiencing is because of grand minimum. That's for us to connect the dots for. That was my point. We know what's happening right now. NASA's confirming that timeline is happening again.
I'm almost offended reading it because it's I know exactly what they're saying. And the fact that they're going about making such a bold statement casually in an article that isn't really specific to solar cycles. It's more about radiation, space weather, and protecting astronauts during their journeys and exploration. It's just, come on.
So my suggestion to those of you who are new tonight, who are watching for the first time maybe, read that article on NASA and then check out our Grand Solar Minimum 101 and then start going through all of our interviews with Casey and Zarkova. That's the only way to get caught up. I know there's so many questions. And honestly, guys, we can't answer everything in an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour show. And that's the truth.
There are so many dots to connect. There's so many pieces to the puzzle. And it's just interesting when something like that comes up and you see it for what it is.
Anybody else talked about this?
I haven't seen anyone tweet it, share it, talk about it, anything. It's just they've stuck it in there. It's just they sneak it in and be like, the people who have been following this will know what we mean. And those who don't will just read it and be like, okay. And then that's it. And then when something does happen, they can come back and say, well, we told you guys, and, on whatever the date is today, June 12th, it was that it posted. Yep. June 12th of 2019, we said that the next cycle was going to be just as bad as one of the grand minimums 200 million years or 200 years ago or whatever. You see what they do. It's just... It's cowardice. That's what it is. What they do. So, let's get to the people in the chat. It's been rather busy. We have some great Viking friends like Ian and Thor. I'd like to say hello to you. Charles Scott's in the chat. He got stuck on his motorcycle in a downpour in Central Florida. Central Florida's had some brutal weather lately.
A man died from a lightning strike on a bike. Watch out, Scott.
Gentleman on a motorcycle, I think it was around near Jacksonville, got hit by lightning, and the lightning bolt, they showed his helmet just pegged through the helmet, and unfortunately he did not survive that. So please be careful, Charles. Matt Bros made it in the chat, and we were talking about the crop, and he said knee high by 4th of July, and
yeah, no way.
For most of the nation, it's scary. And then there's a lot of people saying, well, the government's not going to warn you when this happens. Nope. And why would they?
But that was also...
don't want to welcome mass hysteria.
That was also told to us 3 years ago. The government is not going to warn you about this. We're going to have to be critically thinking and be ready and be aware. And that's exactly... It's happening the way it was told to us back in the day.
So then, I don't know if you pointed out snow... Concerned Canadian said it's like the foothills.
I'm not sure exactly. I didn't pinpoint the exact area, but yes, there is snow coming in a couple of days.
Do get snow, and it's just the actual accumulation levels are way higher than normal for June. If you guys haven't seen my video on the Rockies covering the Colorado snowpack, sort of interesting footage in that from the satellites, take a look at that. And what else do I have? Foxfire Fortner said Western Nebraska had a killing frost 3 nights ago. And then we were talking about in what horrible shape Wisconsin is in with farming. If you actually just zoom into that state alone and look what they're going through, it's sad. It's devastatingly sad.
It's a common story across the Midwest and the Northern Plains.
And that's all I got. Hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please join us on our social media accounts. I posted most of the ones I have in our description tonight. I know a lot of people were like, use Gabs, use Minds, use this, use that. I tried to add a couple extra links in the description. And we have our GSM social media site. We highlighted, what was her name? Was it the Australian with the gator article? If you share on GSM social, chances are we'll go ahead and highlight it.
Her article it's embedded with our show tonight. So thank you for sharing that. And that's all I got, Jake. Thank you very much, Mari. Again, my lovely producer, Mari, who does all the website work, all the video editing. Really, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have a Grand Solar Minimum channel. So thank you once again for everything you do. And guys in the chat, thank you for participating. We love hearing the comments. As Mari was saying, keep sharing on our social part of our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. Tomorrow night, we'll have a live show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, guys, we will talk soon. Take care.